Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
My name is Zach.
I'm Retro Ray.
And my name is James. We all, you know what's funny? Every time we start, I'm always like, "Wait, who? How? What's the order
So
that
you
we're
talk
gonna
first. I
announce
talk
it?"
first.
Yeah. Do you talk
Clockwise.
first? Do I talk first? You talk first. But yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk about all things Star Wars. Before we start anything, David, should we give a shout out to our lovely patrons for all the support they've given us?
I think we should. Our top tier Patreon supporters: Hayden Hauser, Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallan, Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel, Finner526, Maya Morris, and Maka Tautala. Thank you so much for your awesome support. That helps us do many a thing on the podcast. So can't say it enough. Thank you so much to everyone out there. And I also this week, I saw this a while back, but I haven't podcasted in a while. We have a special shout out to one of our listeners who contacted us on Spotify that said they are frequent listeners, and they said, please give us a shout out. So here's a shout out to Star Wars Girls 13. So
nice.
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. So, and also, I kind of wanted to give a shout out to. I just chatted with one of our listeners, Alex Webster, who is a Facebook contributor, a consistent one, and he was at MegaCon, and unfortunately, he didn't run into Colin or anyone else out there from our Patreon crew, but he had a really good time. He met up with a lot of celebrities, and
Nice.
yeah, he'll probably post a lot on our Star Wars Stuff Facebook group. So yeah, but we got some really sad news, guys, and I wanted to
Yes.
talk about this first before we talk about anything. And this one actually kind of like really hit me hard. I'm surprised, and not simultaneously not surprised how hard this one hit me, because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I was born in 1981, so the movies we all know I had on rotation was Star Wars, of course, New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. But amongst those movies, I also had Rocky 2 on rotation. And growing up, it was one of those weird things where I was like, okay, we started off at Star Wars Episode 4, and Rocky starts at Episode 2. Okay, I guess this is just the
This is the
norm.
way it is.
So yeah, I never knew there was a Rocky 1. I because there's no internet back then. I was a little kid, but I would watch that in heavy rotation, and that's where I learned of Carl Weathers for the first time. He was Apollo Creed, and I watched Rocky 2 just about as much as I watched Star Wars, and that's how I knew of him. And he didn't pop up really in my pop culture world because, of course, my parents didn't let me watch Predator. They didn't let me
Are
watch
you
Action
kidding?
Jackson. Yeah, I'm not
Dude,
kidding. I didn't
that-
watch Predator until maybe sometime in the 90s when it was like on our local KBB, but it was all like censored, and I was like, wow, Apollo Creed is actually in this film too. And I guess not until then, the next time I saw him was in Happy Gilmore,
Yeah.
and he had an awesome like comedic role in that, and it really showed his talent there. And of course, he was also in Toy Story, and he reprised his Apollo Creed role. For me personally, I actually did a skip from Rocky 2 to Rocky 4, and Rocky 4 was one of my favorite films of all time for such a long time. The
oh, man.
montages are epic, they're classic, and I bet a lot of people have seen a lot of the montage. I think especially of Rocky driving his. I think it was what kind of car was it, Ray?
On which movie?
Rocky
I thought you were
4.
going to say his motorcycle, but that was probably
Yeah,
Rocky 3.
because he had a Trans Am in the first movie. Then,
In 4.
Okay, 4. I think it was a Porsche. I think, if I'm
Okay.
mistaken.
Yeah, I just remember it was a black car and it was at night. It wasn't really well lit, and they did a whole montage. It was when Apollo Creed,
Oh,
spoiler
yeah,
alert,
yeah,
actually
yeah.
died against Ivan Drago, and
Hmm.
the training montages in Rocky 3. So yeah, I went from 2 to 4 to 3, and I saw 3, and that was Apollo Creed's big, like, kind of comeback, even though he really wasn't away from me personally, and he actually trained Rocky, and then of course we lost his character in 4, and then Creed, after Sylvester Stallone did all the Rocky movies, they still wanted to keep the franchise going, and they made the whole Creed franchise with Michael B. Jordan. And Carl Weathers wasn't around for that because of course, his character went away. But he was a really big part of my childhood, like I said, and this one really hits hard. And of course, when he was cast in The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau decided to do this thing where he casted actors that were big in the 80s to be in The Mandalorian now. And I thought that was such a cool thing, a cool idea.
Awesome.
And
Awesome to do.
and of course, when all the tributes poured in, when we found out publicly that Carl Weathers had passed away, Jon Favreau said that he was a huge fan of his when he was younger, growing up, because Carl Weathers was in movies in the 70s, 80s, and he was a professional athlete. He played for the Oakland Raiders, and the Raiders actually gave him a nice tribute. And if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, X, I have it posted right now. And he was a linebacker for the Raiders. So that tells you how athletic he was. And during that time, he was trying to pursue acting. And he talks about how some of the guys on the team, because it wasn't a popular thing back then, to try and be an actor, even though Jim Brown was, I think he did it before Carl Weathers or somewhere around that time. But that was what his motivation was. That was what he wanted to do. He pursued it, and he got jobs on Rocky. Ken Norton was supposed to be. He's a famous boxer. He was supposed to be Apollo Creed, but he backed out of it, and then Carl Weathers took his place, and the rest is history. But yeah, Carl Weathers, he was just such an iconic actor, and he's part of the Star Wars family now and forever. And the thing about him was that he went to all the conventions, like even the ones in South Texas where Ray and I are. And he was supposed to do a convention, I think, in Boston. And he made a message saying that he couldn't be there because he was actually directing something. And he was just such an eloquent guy, very genuine. And every time it seemed like he spoke at these conventions, it seemed like he was like a new guy on the scene. He didn't talk like he was someone that's in their 70s. He looked at acting and directing as a place where he could actually learn from and take from other actors. He never lost that kind of curiosity and that kind of dreamer's aspect that he had. And like I said, it really hits hard, man, because he was one of the great ones that we had. And of course, like I pointed out, he directed a couple episodes. He directed Ahmed Best, his return back to Star Wars, which was no small feat, I think, because I think it could have gone totally wrong. But through Ahmed's talent and Carl's talent, Ahmed kind of chronicled a little bit of how how Carl Weathers spoke to him on set to kind of settle his nerves, because it was a big deal, him coming back to Star Wars. And I'm so happy that he got to do that, and that he was cast in The Mandalorian, that he's in the Star Wars family forever. And this is a hard one, guys. So Zach, what are your thoughts on Carl Weathers?
Yeah, well, I was sitting in my desk at work, and I saw your text, David, to us about Carl Weathers passing away, and I instantly thought of Rocky 3, when him and Rocky are training on the beach. Well, I guess Apollo and Rocky training on the beach, and they're racing each other on foot, and I don't know. I mean, it was just flashes of my favorite scenes of Carl Weathers as an actor in different forms of media, and I definitely liked him a lot in Happy Gilmore. Loved him in Rocky. There's a handful of projects I know he's in that I haven't seen yet, but I might be motivated to do so now because of his passing. But that says nothing bad about, I hope, his projects he's been in. There's movies I need to watch. That's no secret if you've been listening for a little bit. But it's crazy. It kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't think he had any health problems. It didn't sound like he did, and it just sounds like he passed away peacefully in his sleep. And it's just another one of those too soon type stories. And it's very saddening, but yeah, I definitely like what he stood for and who he was, and thought he brought a lot to Star Wars in the past few years, and think his legacy will continue to live on for sure.
James?
Yeah, see, I was the opposite. I didn't see Rocky for many years, but I did see
Wow.
Predator. I watched a
Mm.
lot of
Okay.
Predator growing up, and his performance as Dylan was really great. He played that role. Mind you, that movie could have been cheesy beyond all reason. But
Yeah.
each of those actors played each of their roles really good. Especially Carl Weathers brought a level of realism to that movie that was needed to kind of juxtapose, like to kind of go against
Mm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and everything. And then I loved him in Happy Gilmore. He was so funny in Happy Gilmore, and again, he like Zach said, just all there's so many projects, Action Jackson, and then when he was cast in Mando, I remember being excited because I was like, great, you got Apollo Creed to be in Star Wars. And then
Yeah.
at Celebration, he came out onto the stage with a microphone, everyone's screaming, and he starts going, I want you, I want
Mm.
you. And it was awesome. It was such a cool feeling. Everybody was pumped. And I remember he was in the first season, and I was like, man, he's good. He's really good. The second season comes around, I was like, oh man, he's Carl Weathers. Like he's one of the greats, in Hollywood. And so it's a very, very sad, very, very sad that he's gone. And I want to compare it to Carrie Fisher, but it's up there with like one of those people I've been watching for years has passed, and it's really sad. But at the same time, you look at his work, and he had tremendous performances and lots of jobs, television, movies, everything, and
Yeah.
he's got to live on forever. It's just really sad that he won't be there for the final chapters of Mandalorian and
Mm.
Grogu's story, because the way they set it up, it was like, oh man, he's right there and kind of in the middle of it all. That he's gonna come in and help out. And just my brain automatically went to Filoni and Favreau trying to figure out, man, we just lost a huge piece of the Mandoverse. And but yeah, he was great. And I recently watched the clip of him in Arrested Development where he played Carl Weathers. He played himself teaching Tobias how to be an actor, and I was laughing so hard because just how great he played that role. Like he
Hmm.
was so serious, but what he is saying is just outrageous beyond anything. And yeah, tremendous, tremendous loss.
Ray?
Dude, same thing. It hits home, growing up with him, see him in the 80s, 90s. Of course, you guys haven't seen Action Jackson. You haven't seen, you got to go watch this movie.
I've seen Action Jackson.
Well, I mean, yes, you're the only one. It's such a good movie.
Yeah,
That
it's pretty
movie
great.
was fun to watch. And, going back to the whole Predator thing, the iconic, Schwarzenegger and him, hitting that arm. Another reason why they did that was because Schwarzenegger and him, he got into lifting weights to compete with Schwarzenegger. So they were constantly trying to get bigger to see who was bigger. So that's one of the reasons you see that whole photo kind of zoom into the arm thing to show that how big their arms. I mean, you see how big they are. So they were competing with each other, constantly lifting weights and seeing who's going to get bigger. And then later on, seeing him Happy Gilmore. He wasn't just in that one. He was also in Little Nicky as well. So I mean, getting him to come in Mandalorian, I was happy to see him come back. And like, James said, the role he did, it fit him perfectly. It's just, we're not gonna get to see what more he had to offer for that character. It's gonna be interesting what they do to fill that hole, which is gonna be a
Hmm.
huge hole to fill, in my opinion. But if I have to go, that's how I would want to go in my sleep. I would not want to have to be hooked up to machines or anything like that. If I had to go, that's a choice. The way I would want to go in my sleep.
Yeah, and I just can't help but to think like when he was cast in The Mandalorian, I didn't know how well he would do. I hadn't seen him in a whole lot of stuff like the Arrested Development stuff that James is talking about. I know it's out there. I haven't seen it yet, but him being cast, and then of course they cast Gina Carano, who is not uh, an actor primarily, but his his delivery, I think, really worked for that character. And Carl Weathers really owned Grief Karga. I mean, that's who you think of, and he
Yeah.
really was kind of an anchor for that show. And watching The Mandalorian so many times over and over again, I would listen to his lines and think, man, lines that he delivered to a lesser actor wouldn't work. They would be a little off. So when you go back and watch The Mandalorian, I guess maybe think about that a little bit. But yeah, he was that character, and they allowed him to direct a couple episodes too, and he wanted to. He, like I said, he was still trying to better himself and learn and do stuff in the industry that was outside of acting. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Carl Weathers, and he's going to be deeply missed. I know by all of his co-stars. They all put really touching tributes online. Yeah,
every co-star from every project put something out about, and they all said the same thing. He was real, and he was a great person. And
Yeah.
they said he was so like just cool to talk to. Just he was just very approachable and very nice to everybody. And you could tell all his interviews and everything. You're just like, oh, this guy's great. He was one of the best. He was one of the absolute best they had.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, he'll be truly missed going forward in the Mandalorian. So thank you, Carl Weathers. So.
Yes.
Moving on to the recent news, there was a lot of Daisy Ridley news that dropped. She is doing a lot of press right now for her movie, her independent film that has dropped already. And of course, anytime someone of that magnitude in Star Wars will be asked nonstop in
About
every
Star Wars.
interview, junket, anything they do on the street, hey, when's the next Star Wars? So of course, yeah, she was asked multiple times about what her thoughts were on the fandom, on the script that doesn't exist yet, according to Daisy Ridley. But yeah, she gave a lot of interesting responses. She was on the Happy Sad Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz, and he actually seemingly broke the news to her that Dame Helen Mirren was, I think, recommended or maybe precast, I don't know, to be her as older Rey. And she said she had no idea. She knew of like the older Rey concept, but that was news to her. And she was all for it. But of course, that's not going to happen because that was Damon Lindelof's thing. He's gone. And she confirmed that the writer that was brought on, Stephen Knight, is still on the project. There's just no script yet that she's read. She's seen the story. She's seen the outline. She loves it. She thinks it's great. It's 15 years in the future. We still don't know exactly. There's a lot of rumors out there of when it's maybe going to drop. Maybe December of 2026, possibly. But I think, James, you've seen some of these and listened to some of these interviews. What do you think about her responses to Star Wars?
I know that I remember hearing that she was a little sad by the reaction from the Rise of Skywalker, and because and of course, as an actress and as a performer, she did amazing. She's incredible in all three of these movies, and she even says, I poured a lot into them. I did a lot of work for these films, and then to see that reaction was kind of gut wrenching, really, for her to be like, oh man, that's unfortunate,
Hmm.
and but yeah, it sounds like she's kind of weary of the fans because of their reaction. She's kind of nervous about how this is all gonna go going forward. And but yeah, when she said that, I was a little sad for her that she was like, I was really proud of what we did, and then just to see that backlash was like, oh man, that's a bummer. But but yeah, she talked about how the direction of the movies, how like the Force Awakens did their thing, how Last Jedi did its thing, and how she acknowledged that they were different. There was different things that happened, but she was really happy with what all happened with the movies. And yeah, she's promoting her new film. She's a producer of the film, which is why she's in a lot of these interviews, because she's one of the producers of the film. So that's great for her. I'm glad that she's kind of stepping into those roles in Hollywood and independent filmmaking. But yeah, so I feel bad for her, but I also, thinking back to what David said, how every actor is asked about Star Wars. Can you imagine Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford during the 80s and 90s? Like, just every movie they made. So when's the next Star Wars coming out? When's the next Star Wars? Like, they were asked about Star Wars forever. So it's just kind of funny that even now it's the same thing. Daisy really does an interview. First thing they ask her is about Star Wars. And what are you going to tell us about Star Wars? So yeah.
Yeah, I like the story that Carrie Fisher told when she went to go see, I think, Mark Hamill on it was either on Broadway or off Broadway, and she was like, "Hey, what's the deal with the playbill saying that you were in this, this, and this, and doesn't list anything about Star Wars? You're Luke Skywalker, and I'm Princess Leia."
My favorite was when she did that. Carrie Fisher did that stand up, which was wishful. I think it was a wishful drinking she did, which is great. If you have HBO, go watch it. It's incredible. It was a
I need to go
one-woman
watch
show.
that.
One-woman show. She's telling her life story pretty much. And there's a bit where she does a quote from Star Wars, and then the crowd laughs, and then she looks at somebody in the audience and says, "In case you don't know, that's from Star Wars. And if you've never seen Star Wars, why are you here?"
That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, it's really weird though, because the rumors going around about this Rey Star Wars film is it's going to production in March, and we still
That's
don't have a
soon.
script for it.
I think
So
there
I'm
is a
thinking the
script. She
March.
just hasn't seen it yet.
Oh,
I
she's
think
okay.
that's the thing. That's what's
Filoni's over
reality.
there like
Taking his red pen and
which I'm okay with. If Filoni and a group of writers and a room full of people are looking at this thing, I am all for that. Like, I think that is what needs to be done. And I have a feeling, I hate to say this, but this is also Marvel, which I think is also learning. Marvel and Lucasfilm did not do this during that era when these movies were coming out. I don't think they had a room full of people mapping out the movies. So I'm hoping that's what's happening right now. But according to Daisy Ridley, the story is great. It's not what she was expecting, but she's excited to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, and a couple of things I want to like piggyback on to what you said, James. When she talks about in these junkets, when the backlash happened, she talked about how more or less, I mean, and we all knew this was the case because we've been to conventions and stuff, but the online criticism is super heavy. There's a lot of negativity, but in person, when she's been to Star Wars Celebration, it's nothing but positivity. So if you're on the fence about going to Star Wars Celebration and you're worried about like the negativity going there too, no, there's like zero negativity at Star Wars Celebration. It's totally different. It's basically what it was like in the 70s and 80s for Star Wars.
I was nervous whenever like Kathleen Kennedy going on stage. I was like, is she gonna get nothing? It's just unfortunate that the naysayers online it's so few, but they're so loud. They're everywhere. But when you go to these conventions, when you go to Star Wars Celebration, when Daisy Ridley came out in Chicago, like, it was insane. Everybody was screaming and yelling. And when Kelly Marie Tran came out, she got a standing ovation for almost 5 minutes. Like, it was, and it's like, this is great. This is Star Wars. This is what the fans should be. And I know Daisy Ridley said at this past celebration she was nervous. Like, she was genuinely kind of scared to come out on stage because she didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't know how the crowd was going to react to her. And but of course everybody went crazy. And I remember even we weren't there, we were all going crazy. I remember Ray, not Retro Ray, but Ray was texting us, and she was like, like, she sent a picture like Daisy Ridley's there, and like all this other stuff, and we all were going crazy when they announced that she was going to be the next in the next movie. And I just feel bad that she has that kind of thought, like Daisy Ridley is
Yeah.
like really nervous about the fandom, and I just wish she would listen to our podcast and know that we all love her. I mean, look. I mean, behind me, I have posters, and she's in almost every poster I have behind me. So it's just the way it is.
She should talk to Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
should
Give him a
Man,
call because,
Wouldn't that be an awesome panel?
yeah,
Just have
that'd be
them too.
sick.
that would be everything to have Hayden Christensen and Daisy Ridley on stage, and then please Ahmed Best on stage as well, and Jake Lloyd. That would be such a great thing. I think the fans would. I think if they announced Jake Lloyd was going to be at a celebration, the tickets would sell out instantly because everybody wants to see him. And
Yeah.
you know that for a fact. That would be a panel everybody would be trying to get to see Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, I think that'd be really awesome at a celebration where it's just a surprise panel. That's what it's listed as.
Yep.
And then you just start getting all these like heavy hitters like Ahmed Best and Hayden, and then Daisy shows up. And they just like start talking. They have like their own like de facto like podcast on stage. And there's no topics, there's no subjects. They just start talking about stuff. And we're just like kind of like eavesdropping on the conversation.
When Ahmed Best was there in Chicago and he was on stage, it was really crazy at how funny he is. Like he was making everybody laugh to the point where I was like, he should be hosting Star Wars Celebration. Like he should be. Warwick Davis is great, but Ahmed Best had a presence there, and everybody was laughing, and I was like, he's great. He's really good, and glad that he's back in Star Wars, but yeah, that panel would be something to see all those amazing people on stage.
So. Yeah, even like if it was just a phone call with, I don't know, Daisy and Hayden, because Hayden was the face of, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Well, I mean, up there with Ewan and Natalie Portman and all that stuff, but he was received differently than the other two were. And as a young actor, and I don't know, his career was very different after the prequels, and now he's back, and I think everybody's happy about it. And there's, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of coaching or advice he could give to her in that realm, just with dealing with negativity, because there's going to be negativity no matter what way you go about it, right? But yeah.
And with Star Wars, it's so loud. Like it's such a loud crowd of people who are negative, and it's so unfortunate. I mean, look what they did to Jake Lloyd, like that poor guy.
Yeah.
He made a movie. He was, 9 years old? They bullied him just relentlessly. And it's like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Like it's
that was really before the internet was blowing up too.
Yeah.
So just imagine.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that'd be great. And so, yeah, we're all excited to see what this new Rey movie, which should be going into production very soon, according to the rumors we've been hearing. And hopefully I am in it. That would be great as well. I'm just joking. But I was just
you're telling us there's a chance.
I don't have a passport. So I'm like, man, if I get cast in this movie, I don't know how I'm going to get over there to London to shoot this thing. So we'll figure that out later. But
so you're telling us there's a chance, James.
I'm joking. I'm totally joking. But yeah, so go Daisy. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to start seeing pictures and hearing news about what this movie's going to be called. And if they are in fact going to call it Episode 10, which would be wild if they did that.
That's another
slam dunk, according to David.
It's a good number to end on, I guess. I don't know, like 10 movies.
Star Wars is not going to end, Zach. What are you talking about?
Okay, or they conclude the Skywalker saga and they have 10. I know 3 trilogies is pretty dope, but you put that little...
Nah, man, you got to do 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Go to the original George Lucas notes and do the 12 movies that he had planned after.
All about midichlorians.
Yep. No. MC counts. Don't forget, they are now called the MC count.
MC.
That's super funny.
Interesting.
I don't think I ever laughed harder than that when I was watching Mando, when they're like, his MC count is off, and I was like, no way did they just say that? Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure there was like maybe a few fans around the world were just like, they stuck it in there.
So yeah, the second thing that I wanted to add to what James said was the fact that they are showing signs of having a plan, because there's a new rumor out there that Sean Levy's film is somehow, some way going to tie into Rey as a character,
Ooh.
which that's kind of interesting because Sean Levy, he is now like really close friends with Ryan Reynolds, and he's doing the new Deadpool film that's going to drop in the middle of this year, and he also did a couple of other projects. I think Free Guy and that other film on Netflix that dropped with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
So
the
he's
Percy
also-
Jackson kid, too.
I think so. Yeah, I think
He's also doing Stranger Things. He's also
it was
doing
the Adam
Friends.
Project, right, or something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
okay.
so. Stranger Things, what?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Sean Levy is the producer of Stranger Things, and
Oh,
that's
I
how
love
he kind of
Stranger
made his
Things.
name, and that's how he got into
Oh,
all the
man.
work that he has now, essentially. I believe.
Super cool.
So, yeah, that I think is a really great sign. But of course, we still don't know what films are going to drop next. We have a belief that we kind of maybe know, and it seems like, as we've talked about so many times on the podcast, that every other year that an Avatar film isn't dropping, a Star Wars film is going to drop in that slot. So that appears to be the case because they don't want to interrupt that money train. So
Yeah, you don't want to go against James Cameron. I don't care what anybody says. You don't ever bet against James Cameron. He's going to deliver.
yeah.
And Disney knows that, not to put two big movies up against each other the same month.
Yeah, for sure. So I think Zach and Ray have some comic book info they want to talk about here, and
Yeah.
I'm eagerly anticipating what they're going to talk about here.
Man, me too, David. It's going to be great. So Ray and I have been talking a lot over the past couple weeks, couple months even, about covering comics more on this channel and just getting more eyes and ears in front of the content that is put out that is still canon to this universe that we all know and love, and see if we can help fill the gaps for some people and cover the content if people can't quite make it to a comic shop, or if it's easier to listen to a breakdown on a comic on your way to work versus reading the book. We totally get that, but we also want to encourage you guys to go and get physical books as well. I had this book supplied to me, the Star Wars Revelations. I got a picture there. Yeah, there it is. So Ray also has the same book. This was supplied by our friends over at a comic shop in Muskegon called Lang's Comics and Collectibles. We can put a link in the description for how you can find those guys. But and Ray, you want to talk about your sponsor for your book as well, real quick?
Yeah. So Dragon's Lair Alamo Ranch here in San Antonio, Texas. They're the ones who provide us for the books to review for Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Yes, they did provide us this. This is basically going to be a kind of a tease of what to expect coming out with the new books in the new year. They're freaking awesome. They're like a couple of pages, kind of leading you to read into it. I'll let Zach go first and tell us which ones he liked and he's looking forward to, and then I'll tell you mine.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like Ray was saying, this book, as you can look at the cover, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of characters that are on this cover that could share a panel or two together, that some that definitely won't. But there's a lot going on, and for some reason, Jabba the Hutt is the center of all these characters, and I don't know, maybe there's something greater building that we quite don't understand.
He should always be of everything here. I'm just kidding.
Wait, is that? Yeah, they throw in
for
a picture
people that
of
are
Ezra
listening.
Bridger.
For people that are listening, who are the characters on the cover, Zach?
So we have Darth Vader in the top right. Everyone knows Darth Vader. We got Grand Admiral Thrawn, if we're going clockwise here. Mace Windu, that looks like a hooded Luke Skywalker in the bottom. I don't know if that's exactly who that is, because Luke Skywalker is also on the left side there holding the yellow lightsaber. And then Lando is next. Then we got Luke with the yellow lightsaber, Princess Leia, and I believe we have one of our characters from the High Republic whose name is escaping me at the moment. Ray, any chance you know who that is off the top of your head?
I forgot her name because I'm still getting familiar with the High Republic stuff. But she is one of the main characters for the High Republic.
Is she the youngest Jedi Master? Is that character?
I don't think it is.
I think Vernestra Rowe is the youngest.
Yes, that does sound right. The High Republic, there's a lot. This is their phase 3, I think. Jeez. Is how they've been kicking this off in waves, and there's multiple comic runs, multiple books that tie into this this world that'll start to be brought to life off of the page and onto the screen with the Acolyte, and I'm sure there might be more projects coming as well. But
Yeah, so
But
High
yeah.
Republic, if you guys want to get caught up, which that's what we have to do, we're gonna have to get the graphic novels to get caught up to current. Which that's what we're gonna eventually do for them. The big issues are for me that I saw in this that really caught my eye was the Star Wars one. The first issue that's titled "A Trick of the Mind." I mean, the first couple of pages in this story arc is mind blowing because it's like you see one of the bounty hunters on trial, and they talk about how the Jedi use the mind trick to control people, and that some people aren't affected, and it's kind of like Law and Order, kind of, but with the Jedi's and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it hooked me as soon as I started reading that. I'm looking forward to reading that story arc of Star Wars. The other one that got me, of course, was Jango Fett and the Mace Windu. Vader
yeah.
has me interested as well, but those are the top three that really caught my eye from this. Um, what caught your eyes, Zach?
Yeah, real quick to piggyback off of what Ray was saying about the Star Wars main title, the bounty hunter that's being interrogated is Dengar, which a lot of
Yeah.
us know is in the Clone Wars a little bit, in the Empire Strikes Back where he made his debut, and he's sprinkled in games here and there and kind of all over the place. But for me, I really liked the Jango Fett story. It kind of introduces him because there's only so much we have about Jango Fett, and I love getting little bits and pieces of him where I can. I know there's an episode of the Clone Wars where the Separatists are trying to steal Jango Fett's DNA that they have, and you see a picture of what Jango Fett looks like, and obviously he looks like the clones, but he's got his face scars and all that stuff, and how he's depicted in the Clone Wars art is really cool, and I just like seeing little snippets of him where I can. So seeing more of him coming in this comic, I think, will be great. And it's about him tracking down like a statue or something that's stolen, and he's working with bounty hunters, or I guess against different bounty hunters to try to find this piece for Jabba the Hutt and Aura Singh. The two pages or so that we get, it ends with Aura Singh putting her scope on Jango, saying, "I could take the shot. I could get right between the helmet and the chest plate, so the Beskar." And take him out right now. And whoever she's talking to over her headset says, "Wait, he can take us to where we need to go. Let's just follow him." And we don't know who that is. I'd love it to be Cad Bane, but I don't know. We know that there's some sort of relationship between Cad Bane and Jango Fett based on how Boba talks with Cad Bane in the Clone Wars. So that's the one that stuck out to me the most. I love the Mace Windu one as well because I believe he's undercover when this starts. It's not exactly clear when this takes place in the timeline. I'm assuming it's a little bit before the beginning of the Clone Wars because he's not wearing his Clone Wars armor or hybrid Jedi robes Clone Wars armor that we've seen before. And it's about him chasing down, it looks like an astromech droid here. And we don't know why he is where he is. We just know that he's trying to chase down some information that has to do with this droid. And there's a lot that are coming up with him. And I believe Jango Fett and Mace Windu are both going to be limited run series, and those are two series Ray and I will be covering as well, as alongside the High Republic, which has already kicked off and a few issues in, and Ray and I will be getting those out shortly as well. But the third one that caught my eye, it doesn't have a promotional couple of pages in this book, but it has covers that they revealed, and that would be Thrawn over here. So,
oh yeah, so good.
I'm very excited to read what Thrawn will be. It's the second novel of this new canon trilogy, and it will be a comic adaptation of Thrawn Alliances. And Anakin Skywalker comes in, and they go to Batu, I believe, and just a lot of cool things that I'm sure a handful of Star Wars fans would want to see. And very exciting stuff with comics that are going. The main Star Wars title and Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra are like 40 plus issues deep for all three. So if we get enough feedback and comments that people want us to cover them, we can, but it's a lot to kind of catch up to as well as the High Republic, but we can kind of do it as a case by case scenario. But the comics for Star Wars are kind of slept on, in my opinion. There's always a lot in there to fill up the gaps and the voids that some shows fill, some shows don't. And I don't know, every book, game, novel, comic, it all goes into the same canon, which we all know and love. So just trying to add a little bit more to the content we provide and see if we can help some of y'all learn a couple things along the way.
So, guys, if you haven't picked up the issue 1 came out last week for Thrawn.
Yeah.
I've already read it. We're going to be talking about it later.
Yep.
But my thoughts with Zach, I love the flashbacks going back and forth where we get to see him interacting with Anakin before he becomes Vader.
Yeah.
And then the one that really got me, guys, when we'll be talking about this later, but this is going to make you want to go buy it. There's a scene where Vader and Thrawn are they're getting surrounded, and it's him and Vader, and they both start fighting together, and then it goes from that page and jumps to another page where you see Anakin and him kind of do the same thing where they fought before alongside each other. And then it leaves you, like, says, to be continued. It is so freaking, well, to me, I'm like, wait a minute, you're jumping from here to there, and I'm like, and then it says to be continued. You're like, wait a minute, what? But if you haven't picked it up, go get a copy. I can't wait till the next issue to figure out what happened. But it's a good book. I mean, what did you think, Zach, from what you read?
So I don't have Thrawn 1 yet. That got
dang.
special ordered for me because I wanted the variant cover that has Anakin and Thrawn on it because I'm that guy. So that'll be coming in for me next week. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm excited to read it, and we'll definitely give you
dude.
guys a breakdown of that comic when it comes out and in the coming weeks here. We're going to try to get one issue out a week because most of these issues release on a monthly basis, and we're behind a little bit. So we'll have some for the next couple of weeks between Ray and myself, and there's a lot to cover, lots to catch up on, but it's just an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. There's so much that's coming. There's so much that we get to look forward to, and yeah, so much. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a ton, but I don't know. I'm on a huge Bad Batch kick right now, so that's where mine's going because my wife and I are rewatching the Bad Batch. We just finished season 1, literally like a half an hour before I got on the podcast, and probably once I'm off, we're going to start season 2 and get ready for season 3 coming out here in a couple days. Yeah, it's going to be very cool.
I'm feeling like I need to rewatch a little bit of the Bad Batch so I can be ready for season 3, the final season. So
if you binge it, it's a lot better than you might remember because watching it week by week when it came out a couple of years ago, it was, I mean, there were some episodes that had more plot driven elements, right? But if you watch it all in a shorter amount of time, it adds a lot of charm and it adds a lot of value that I think was lost over the weekly release, which, you know, TV shows being released once a week, that's normal. That's how it's been for a very long time. And but there's something about binging the Bad Batch. It definitely gives you certain appreciation for characters that you might not care about as much if you kind of wait a week between watching every episode.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of really wanting to read a little bit more in the Star Wars comic books because at first, I think 4 issues that we covered of the Thrawn comic, they were pretty interesting. They gave a lot of insight into Thrawn, and I was really wondering how they were going to make it to where Thrawn is this like huge, like really, really intelligent tactician, and they made it work. So
yeah, it's good stuff, man. This issue number 1, I'm just like taking it all in. You get to see, you know, with the first couple of pages that it gives you, you get introduced. It's Thrawn and Vader meeting kind of, you know, together, and with Palpatine there, and then giving spoilers, it continues on to them working on something. But the last couple of pages what really got me hooked more because seeing Vader and him fighting, like you see Vader's like lightsabers like lit up and stuff, and he's fighting with his bare hands because of course if you've seen Clone Wars, you see him fighting with the robots with his pretty much bare hands, and I think it was like what nightsticks kind of. Yeah. So it's so cool because that's the first thing that popped in my head when I saw that artwork was me picturing him fight those droids, you know, breaking a sweat kind of thing. But yeah, it's gonna be definitely a good read. Go out there, buy a comic, get it, because with you guys not buying comics, if comic sales aren't good, then some people would want to wait for graphic novels. If it doesn't do well in sales, well, they cancel the series. When it gets canceled, even though if you pick up a graphic novel later, that means you're still not gonna be able to finish finding out what happened because the book gets canceled. So that's why we want to keep and give out love to local comic book stores, so you guys can buy comics, read them, and not wait for graphic novels. If you want a graphic novel once the series is out, then hey, more power to you, because it's even better, because then you can read it all in one hit and not having to go individually book by book. But yeah, definitely support your local comic book shops.
Cool. So MegaCon in Orlando happened this weekend, and we had a few members of the podcast decide to make the trek down there. And of course, some of them actually live there. I think Josh Anderson lives there, and one of our old co-hosts, Sam, he lives there as well. And they met up with Colin and Brooke. And I have a few pictures here of Colin and the crew. The first one, I think we were going to do a podcast with Colin, but it fell through because he said he was finishing his C-3PO head that he was 3D printing, and he had to sand it down right before he got on the plane and paint it. So he had to do all that because he was meeting Anthony Daniels in person, and he wanted to get it signed. So mission accomplished there for Colin. This is him at MegaCon, wearing a very familiar hat. But yeah, he got a signature on a C-3PO 3D printed helmet there. And he also, one of his other main goals was meeting Cameron Monaghan, and he was able to do that too, him and Josh. So they got a picture in, and you can see Colin there holding the lightsaber.
That's sweet.
Nice.
And they had bought the Narkina 5 costumes for London when we went, but they didn't arrive on time until after we got back, of course. And they had a chance to wear them. So here's a picture of Colin, Josh, and Sam wearing the Narkina outfits there.
That's sweet.
And Colin was telling me about this event. It's called Mosh Isley. They were all able to attend. It's basically like a big, nerdy concert that I guess it's a tradition now at MegaCon. And here's a picture of Colin getting ready for it. He wore life preservers with his Narkina 5 costume. So
all jokes aside, that is clever. That is really amazing. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah.
Okay, so the big question is, are the arm floaties better than wearing the tube around your waist? Because I want to say that the floaties on the arms are gonna get kind of annoying after a while. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the ones that go around my waist, but when I was a kid, I'd put the ones that go on your arms on my feet, and I could stand and float and kind of levitate in the water. And I don't know, that was 150 pounds ago though. I was so much smaller when that was a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely didn't like wearing those on my arms though.
Yeah. And there was a huge Star Wars presence at MegaCon, of course.
Always
amongst the people I just showed you, Cameron and Anthony Daniels. Ewan and Hayden did a panel together. They took a picture together, evidently.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, they did a huge panel, I think, at the end of Saturday. And I'm not quite sure what they spoke about, but they were very, very friendly at the end. They gave each other a kiss at the end when when the panel concluded. But yeah, it seems like Colin had a really fun time. He's probably going to talk all about it on Thursday on his podcast when he gets back. I think he's going to be back by then, but I'm sure he has a lot of fun stories to tell about MegaCon. So, but there's also another convention in Ray and my neck of the woods here, and Ray attended it, I think, both days, and he ran into someone that is actually a listener of the show. I have a picture here of Ray with the stormtrooper, and his name is Ivan, and he listens to the show, so we wanted to give him a shout out on the show. And hopefully we run into him again. We'll probably run into him again at a future convention. But that's he has like a boombox. It's in the shape of a cassette, and I guess that's like his shtick. And he wears looks like he wears Puma
Yeah.
shoes there.
He has a Puma logo on the side. He has a gold necklace. So I'm fixing to leave, and I see him walking up, coming with a boombox on the side of his head, and I'm like, "Oh, cool! I got to get a picture of this guy before split." So as I'm walking up to him, he starts pointing at my shirt, and I'm like, "Well, can I get a picture with you?" And then all of a sudden, he lifts his helmet up, and he goes, "I listened to your podcast," and I was like, "Oh, well, that's cool." And then he says, "Can I get a picture with you too?" So we took a picture together, and I got the picture with him by himself. It was just crazy, man. I was not expecting for someone to actually recognize the logo um, at the convention. It was just a simple thing at the Ingram Park Mall here in San Antonio. And it was just kind of like an 80s theme uh, show that they had. And now we got a stormtrooper here in San Antonio that we can reach up and talk to.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Also, Retro Ray was able to secure us a podcast with Tom Spina, the founder of Regal Robot, and
Yeah.
he is going to announce something on our podcast when we have it. I believe it's on February 12th. Is that correct?
I think it was 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
13th. Well, I know there's going to be an official announcement for something that's going to drop for the public to purchase on February 20th, correct?
Yeah.
Here's kind of the hint at it. Is that picture okay to show, Ray?
Yeah, it's on his socials.
Okay. So, yeah, it's the archive collection, and it's a new legacy edition, something Phil Tippett related.
Ooh.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
Phil Tippett's one of the original employees of ILM, and of course you've seen the ILM documentary on Disney Plus, and they do some pretty cool stuff documenting Phil Tippett's rise in his career for ILM, and they had a really interesting episode on him where it kind of focused on his life. It was super interesting. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out on Disney Plus. I believe it's still there. And as Colin announced a couple of podcasts ago, there's going to be a season 2 of that ILM show. So
it's fun. I like it.
Which needs to happen. Like I said, when it ended, I was like, man, there's still like another 20 years that we need to learn about that ILM. And yeah, Phil Tippett he's like David said, he's an OG, man. He's like, if you look at ILM early days, he is one of the 3 or 4 faces that you think about when you think of ILM. And yeah, I'm just wondering what it could be. Like what did he make? I mean, because all of his stuff is legendary. So now it's like, what is this thing that they're gonna announce? And Regal Robot is, man, they got some nice stuff. They got some expensive stuff too, but they got some really, because correct me if I'm wrong, they have the full Han Solo and Carbonite table. Is that correct?
Yeah, they created just about all the big hits, the Solo and Carbonite, the Dejarik table, the characters on the Dejarik table.
I think they even have the it's like a coffee table, but it's the Millennium Falcon flying through the asteroid. And there's TIE fighters. It's incredible. And I remember they had one at Celebration, and I just saw the price tag, and I was like, I gotta walk away from this thing because I feel like I have to pay just to look at this. But the detail on it was disgusting. It was so nice. And I almost bought I think they had like a few little Mandalorian symbols that you could put on your refrigerator and everything. But yeah, what do you think it is? What do you think this announcement's gonna be?
Yeah, that's Regal Robot right there.
Yeah,
that Mythosaur skull. If
What
you
I
look
saw.
really closely, those are the monkey lizards there as well from Regal Robot. I'm not quite sure because I mean, you think Phil Tippett? I mean, maybe it could be like, I know he's famous for doing the mocap stuff for like creatures and the AT-AT, the Wampa. I'm a big fan of the Wampa. Maybe it's something Wampa related. I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool.
And Regal Robot has done a lot of stuff where they do a lot of the the pre-conceptualization of creatures, the first runs of, especially the Max Rebo argument that we always have. They created the Max Rebo statue where it just has the legs and no arms. I know Colin will really love that, but
I just hope it's Kane for RoboCop 2. Like just a full Kane from RoboCop 2 would just be the best.
Well, that's the
that-
thing.
yeah, that would be
He just didn't do Star Wars. I mean, he did everything
he
that we
did.
pretty much grew up watching. You know what I mean?
Any stop motion you saw in a movie in the 80s was most likely a Phil Tippett creation. And there's
Starship
a great
Troopers,
video of there's a great video of Dennis Muren and him on the set of Empire Strikes Back, and they are moving the walkers, and it's just like the meticulous detail of moving each and every, and like you see Phil Tippett comes over, does it, he walks away, then Dennis Muren hits the button, all right, got it, next, and they just frame by frame, and of course Phil Tippett was going to direct he was going to do the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg wanted stop motion dinosaurs, but then Dennis Muren and I forget what his name, the other animator, tricked Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall to come in and see a footage of a T-Rex walking that was digital, and that's when she said, "Okay, I think we're doing digital." But Phil Tippett studied all of this stuff, so he was actually the what was his title? Like his title was really great for Jurassic Park.
Dinosaur supervisor.
Was it like, it was like dinosaur supervisor, and it was the
Wrangler.
funniest, right? Yeah. And everybody was like, Phil Tippett, you had one job to do, man. Like, look what happened in the park, all the dinosaurs got out. But yeah, that was his job for Jurassic Park. So whatever it is, it's gonna be awesome. Whatever it is, that's gonna be announced because it is Phil Tippett. So listen, please join us on the 13th, and it's gonna be pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it is the 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. So yeah, I
It's gonna be
remember
fun,
now.
man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm like anxious to see what's he gonna do. Anyways.
So yeah, I think that's all I got, guys. Does anyone have any more Star Wars stuff to talk about?
No, just about stay tuned. We did do a big announcement on General Kenobi's bunker for Retro Expo in Dallas, and they are doing a reunion, is what they're stating, for Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars for their convention. And we got to announce on General Kenobi's podcast the first guest for the show, and it is Ezra Bridger.
Taylor
Gray, and stay tuned for us because we're lucky to get to announce the next guest.
Ooh.
We don't have the dates yet, but it will be during the live stream. And just keep in touch, and we'll be teasing when we're going to drop this. So keep listening.
Awesome.
Man, Rebels is just amazing. Rebels is so good. I did the thing on it's been going around Instagram where it's like, pick 5. What are your 5 favorite things? And it was Star Wars, and it was between Clone Wars and Rebels. I picked Rebels, and I know that might make people upset, but I think
it's good.
Absolutely,
it's good.
Incredible, and it's an incredible chapter in Star Wars that I think people kind of overlook.
Oh yeah,
same as Clone Wars, but Rebels I think kind of went under the radar there for a second, and oh man, it is so good. Somebody just asked, when do tickets to Celebration go on sale? How much are they normally? They are surprisingly not that expensive for celebrations. Like a 4-day pass, I believe, is less than $200. But the problem with those passes is they sell out so fast, and that's the hard part about getting the passes, is how quickly they sell out. But yeah, it's less than $200. And as for when they go on sale, I don't know, because in a few months we're going to be a year out. So when
that is true.
There's really never we never really have like a good idea when they do go on sale. They kind of just announce it and then they're there.
I've never noticed a pattern, but a year out would make a lot of sense for them to start selling it, like maybe in April.
Yeah.
Maybe May 4th. I mean,
yeah, I would say if we are in August and they haven't gone on sale, we're in trouble. So I'm pretty sure before the summer we will have the passes will go on sale. and
Yeah.
it's going to be in Tokyo. Some of us are already saying they are going, and we will see. Is there a specific site? I live in Japan. Oh, they did. Did they say the name of the center that's going to be in?
Yes, if you go to StarWarsCelebration.com, you can see all the details there. So I don't think it's quite in Tokyo. It's like in a suburb of Tokyo, but it is in Japan. It's 3 days, and it's not going to be a 4-day or a 5-day, so it's going to be a pretty quick celebration. But yeah, it's going to be like James said, about a year away, and those tickets, I believe, will sell out in minutes. So
Oh no!
if you're
No,
if you're thinking about going, what were you gonna say, James?
I went to the website and it was all in Japanese. And
Yeah,
I was
sometimes that'll happen.
like, oh no, what did I? But no, it's
Yes, it's happening in Japan. Sometimes I guess the coding gets all screwed up, and you go to the English site and it's all in Japanese. Just refresh it, and it should come back in English.
So the name is I can't even pronounce this, but there is will be held at
Try it, James.
Makahari Masi.
Yeah,
which I totally butchered that, but that's where it's gonna be. So
it's a Star Wars tradition.
April 18th through the 20th.
Yeah.
Sam,
So
which
yeah,
is
Colin
crazy
said he's going for sure.
Oh, jeez. But I am a little worried that it's only 3 days. Like that's a
You're gonna have to cram a lot into 3 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a lot in there. But we'll see. Did somebody just write to us in Japanese? Yeah, they did. They totally did.
Nice.
I really hope it was something
Awesome.
nice about Retro
I hope
Ray.
that's something nice for our Japanese.
Retro
readers.
Ray and Zach are very handsome, I think is what.
Oh, that's too funny.
But
Or maybe
but
they just
yeah,
copied and pasted something on the site.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Watch it's the name of the place that I totally I'm sorry. But yeah, so April and I think David is onto something. Sometime in April they're gonna announce it, and it's gonna sell out pretty quick. And so you better be ready to go because for London, I didn't end up going, but I had to buy 4 individual day passes because by the time I got on there, and you see that little dude walking because you're in line, by the time it loaded, all the 4-day passes were gone. So it was
that was unbelievable, man.
It was so quick.
I could not believe it. We had to buy individual day passes for the first time ever.
Which is more expensive.
First world problems.
Yeah, hopefully they have the 3-day passes for sale. Get them because it's actually a lot cheaper than doing 3 individual day passes.
Yeah.
It's like San Diego Comic-Con. It's the same way, and then, which is kind of funny because like you go to some of these other conventions, the VIP packages are like $200, $300, $400, and San Diego Comic-Con for the 4-day event, if you're lucky to buy it, is maybe $200. But there's so much. I mean, okay, guys, if you guys haven't been to San Diego, it's freaking nuts. So you get you pay $200, but you get free autographs sometimes because there's always
That's
like Marvel
crazy.
there.
I think you're wrong, Ray. I think if you're Retro Ray and you go,
oh yeah,
you get all kinds of free stuff, deals,
I've seen Retro Ray
endorsements,
and
hats, stickers, bumper stickers.
I've seen Retro Ray in action before, and I was like, holy crap, dude! You just walked right up and were like, hey, so this is what we're doing, and then I'm just staring at Ming Na Wen. I'm like, I can't believe I'm standing like 2 feet in front of Ming Na Wen, and he's over here just
Ray has
talking
the
like
force. I think he's like, you will.
Yeah,
do
there's
the
something.
podcast.
Retro Ray has some superpower that we don't know about.
Okay,
But-
well, I'm gonna tell you a story
Uh-oh.
about the RetroCon that we were at, right? So we're there promoting Star Wars the podcast, Countdown City Geekcast, and I was gonna try to get an interview with Larry Hama, the creator of G.I. Joe, but it's just it's so crazy. I had to leave early Sunday, so I didn't get a chance to interview him because I was manning the table. And right before I left, I'm like, Ted gets there and he takes over the table. So I go say bye to him and tell him, hey, before I leave, I wanted to see, can I get an interview you on live stream or something like that? Do you have a contact info who I can contact? He pulls out his card, gives me his contact phone number, email address, everything. And I was like, oh, by the way, I want to show you this cool Snake Eyes outfit that this site's making. It's called Super, I think Super, not Super 7, but let me get the right name for you. Super Apparel, Super X Apparel. And I show it to him. He's like, oh, he loved it. And he's like, oh man, he's like, how can I get one? So I was like, okay. So getting back, come back Monday. I email Super Apparel, say, hey, I'm gonna get an interview lined up with him to do a live stream. And he loved the outfit. He asked, how can he get one? And they're like, do you have his contact info? I'm like, yeah. He's like, ask him his size and we'll send him one.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the same thing. I said the same thing. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. So then I message him back and tell him the situation. And I go, is it okay? I can give him your address and everything? He says, yeah, go ahead. I send it to him, give it to him. And they turn around and tell me, they're like, hey, we'll give you a discount on a suit. Which one do you want?
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
Yes.
Like I said, Retro Ray has some secret powers and superpowers that we can't do as well.
Get to see it at SpaceCon.
Yeah, exactly.
I was shocked, dude. I was just shocked. My thing was, it was just like, I wanted, him to see what they make. If you guys don't have a chance, go check it out. Super X Apparel. They have Dragon Ball Z one. They have Power Rangers. Then they have the Snake Eyes one they just came out with, and the Storm Shadow one. They look so freaking cool.
Wow.
And yeah, it definitely got to check them out if you guys. Now they got to make some Star Wars ones.
Yeah, I'm about to say, come on, man, get on it. Make some really cool Star Wars things. And when is now that I live in California, it just hit me. I live in California. I could go to San Diego Comic-Con. When is it?
In July.
In July. Okay.
July, I think this year.
But you got to buy your tickets, I think, a year in advance, right?
Yes.
So it's over. I can't sneak it.
I mean, there's people who turn around and sell their badges. You're not supposed to.
It's gonna be so expensive though. They mark those things up.
Well, the thing is about these badges is that we're gonna have to edit this out, but there's people who just take off their badge and just hand it off to somebody, and then all they do is just scan your barcode. That's all they do. So there was really no way of them seeing.
We have a similar story with Joseph at in Chicago. We did the same thing. They didn't even. Yeah, Tim knows what's up. Badges, we don't need no stinking badges. But yeah, that's really funny. Well, that's cool. That's cool. And
no, you definitely want to go, guys. If you've never been, it's fun. Especially, I mean, this past couple of years it hasn't been just because a lot of the main IPs weren't there.
Yeah.
But the last time I attended, Supergirl was barely coming out, and Game of Thrones was there. Walking Dead was there. Like you have an opportunity. Like I got a poster signed by the entire cast of Supergirl.
Of course you did.
Didn't pay. I mean, well, you have to go and get badges, wristbands to get the autographs. But it's like kind of like what we do when you come to our table at a convention. If you see us, we tell you put your hand in the bag. We want you to pull blue coin out, and if you pull blue coin, you get a prize. That's the same premise that some of these like comic book signings at the convention and the celebrities. They're like, oh, put your hand in the bag. If you grab a red bead, you get selected. You get a wristband. We'll tell you what time to come back to this booth, and you get a free autograph, pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's cool.
Nah, Retro Ray just goes to the front of the line and says, all right, I'm Retro Ray. I might need your autograph, please. Somebody just asked a question. So go to Celebration. You have to buy separate tickets to different parts of the Celebration event? No, which is a good thing. You buy them, and you can go to whatever panel you want to. If they don't do a lottery, which they've started doing the past few years, they've done a lottery system. But if not, yeah, you could just queue for whatever panel you want to go to, get a wristband, and then you can just walk in there. You don't have to.
So how does that lottery work?
The lottery works. Geez,
it's
not you, Ray. It's not you. It's just funny because Colin did a whole thing about why
you ranted for an hour and a half about the lottery.
So pretty much, like say there was the episode 9 panel, Mandalorian panel, and I believe it was the Clone Wars panel. This was in Chicago.
Okay.
Those were like the 3 big ones. And you had to pick which panel you wanted to go to by putting your email address in, and then you would submit it. And then they would pick you for 1, 2, 3, or none of them. and it just
Dang.
depended on the thing. Some people were very lucky. I think Colin was lucky; he got all 3 of them.
No, that was
Wow.
me.
Oh, that was you,
Oh.
David. And I got lucky. I got lucky because I got the episode 9 panel, which that was like what I wanted was the episode 9 panel. But some people, they didn't get anything. Like in Anaheim, thank God I lived here because I was able just to. I mean, at the time I lived in Anaheim, I could just Uber there and Uber back to my apartment. I didn't get any panel. I didn't get anything, and
Wow.
so I can't imagine flying from Texas to California knowing I'm not going to be able to go to any of these panels.
Dang.
And to whoever this Facebook user is, you don't pay extra. You can't pay to get in to these panels. It's just that's the way it goes. So yeah, you could have your 3-day badge, but it's not guaranteed you're going to be able to go into the panel. So if you don't get any panel, was it worth it going? I mean, for me it was because I like going to the booths. I like looking at all the old toys. I like, as you can tell, I like to collect toys, and plus, just being in the room with a bunch of Star Wars fans is a lot of fun. It's really cool just to see everybody in love with Star Wars, and sometimes you get lucky and you can get in, but but for me it is worth it because it's Star Wars and I get to see fans. And this past year, Joseph, who used to be a host on the podcast when we first started, he was there from Texas and Anaheim, and he and I hung out, and it was great just to hang out with him all day. And I'd say it's worth it, but that's just me personally, and I know maybe some people may disagree, but yeah, that's my
So
answer.
got a question. So
Uh-oh.
how do they determine which stormtroopers are part of the people at Celebration and the ones who are actual cosplayers?
That oh so like if a stormtrooper is on the stage
Yeah.
as opposed to somebody who just snuck that's I don't know. I think they have like the whole I don't know how that works, but that's a good question.
That's
Somebody said it was a lottery too. Yeah, that's how they get up. They enjoy the lottery. But yeah, it's cool. Celebration is so much fun. I was very sad I couldn't go to London, but Tokyo's almost a full year away, so maybe that's something I could go to.
Hey, so if I'm a big boy and we're going to Tokyo, and sumo wrestlers are considered what, gods or something like that? I wonder, since I'm a big boy, if that kind of falls in there. So I just go dressed in the sumo wrestler outfit.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Come on in, man."
Or you just say you're Retro Ray and you're good. Either way.
Yeah, or you just say you're Retro Ray, and they'd be like, "Oh, even better, get in here." Man.
I'm here for training now.
Just wear that diaper and slap a Star Wars Stuff podcast logo on it.
on the front. Yeah. That's terrible. But I do know. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty cool in Tokyo for Celebration, but I don't know how. I don't know. It's kind of a big. There we go. Little Austin.
That Powers. Austin Powers.
Yeah, that's an Austin Powers call out. That's pretty good. I don't know who this is. I don't know who's giving us these amazing.
Okay, it might be Craig.
In case you're listening on Spotify or Apple, somebody just wrote "Get in my belly," which was from, of course, Austin Powers.
God, that's too funny, man.
But yeah, I remember somebody was like, the cosplay in Tokyo is going to be insane. Like people, dude, is going to be absolutely amazing.
Oh, it's Zach in Japan.
What was it?
Oh, dang!
It's Zach's doppelganger in Japan.
Nice.
It's your twin, Zach.
Maybe we could share a badge for Celebration.
There you go. They won't know.
Oh man.
But I really want to go. I think it's going to be something.
I do want to go. I don't have a passport. I've always wanted to go to Tokyo.
Americans are so strange.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there, man. And because I love everything they come up with. Power Rangers, Pokemon, Godzilla. I mean, I don't know. I'm not too sure where it's located, but there's actually a hotel that actually has a statue near, I think outside of it, that has a part of Godzilla.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Matt Frank, who does all the artwork for Godzilla in the comics, he goes to Tokyo every year for the Godzilla events they have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, somebody said, oh, geez. Anyways, we don't want to put that away. I didn't read it until it popped. But Anyways, I think on that note, I think we should cut this off. Unless y'all have any more questions about Celebration, we're happy to answer it.
Oh,
But
I gotta meet this. I gotta meet this Zach if I go. Zach, if we go to there, we want you to be our tour guide. You can tell us where
Yes,
all the good
please.
places to go eat is.
Yeah, I think Zach. I remember him now. He's one of the guys that contributes a lot on the Facebook group. So
nice.
Yeah,
That's
you
so
can see
cool,
the
though,
picture
that-
there.
I
Yeah, I
don't know,
just
man, that's so
remembered. Yeah, we have Zach who actually lives in Japan. So
That's so.
I've always
freaking
wanted to
cool.
go to Japan as well. Ever since I saw what was that movie Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson, like, I just love the way it looked, and I'm like, I want to be there. That just looks like such a crazy place to be in. I got them saying I look like Brad Pitt. But anyways, I think that's a good note to end on.
Before we
Oh,
go,
what do you got? What do you got?
Hey guys, if you don't listen to Countdown to the Geekcast and he just bought up Bill Murray, I had to bring this up. Go follow Countdown to the Geekcast. Our founder Ted got to meet Bill Murray at a Ghostbuster event in Austin.
That's right. He posted
Yeah,
all those
so
great
if you want
pictures.
cool stuff, go look over there too as well. Of course, we're all Star Wars here, but anything geek related, go check them out. They're always fun. They have good stuff as well. But yeah,
I can't imagine going to an event and it's like Bill Murray is just riding a horse. Like,
yeah, dude.
I would. That's it. That's a bucket list thing to see. But
and he was picking people at random to ride the bull.
Yeah, and watch him fall off.
But oh my god! All right, we got to get off this thing. All right, well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit us up on Apple Podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, please give us a 5-star review. And just know that we are not complaining about the lottery system again. I know one of our listeners left a review that we complained too much about the lottery system. But and also, if you're on Spotify, be sure to give us a good rating, leave a comment. And if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Am I missing anything? Oh, yeah, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Threads, Instagram. I'm not going to read all of this, but it's all there. It's in the show notes. So just hit us up.
When you're making the OnlyFans,
what was that?
I said, was David making the OnlyFans one yet?
I remember we joked about that. We would do it, and then it's just us talking about Star Wars. Like, people would be so disappointed. But then maybe they learned something. You know? Like we would like purposely make like each tier something like, ooh, what, and then they click on it, and it's just us talking about Star Wars. You know, I think that would be the funniest thing ever. People would be so disappointed.
Hey, you think it'd be bad if we could make that into a shirt? May the force be with you.
I'd buy it.
But yes, well, I think we're gonna look into that. But everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back on Thursday. Hopefully, Colin's here so he can talk about his adventures, and he can post more pictures. And on behalf of the Star Wars Stuff podcast, may the force be with you. Always.
Okay.
Always.
Like that question mark at the end of all of this.
I had to make sure somebody was going to jump in, but yeah, I'll do this.
Yeah, we got to figure this out for next time. Who's going to be talking when about that intros and exits?
That's the tradition. Oh.
Yeah, we never planned it. We never planned it. So yeah.
Dude, what kind of camera do you got that has that?
All right, we got to cut this off.
This is iPhone.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Pew 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 pew.
Oh man.